Well, hey guys, we're back in Henry Cemetery in Corinth, Mississippi today, and we're going to introduce you to Phenix City, Alabama's Queen of Hearts, Fanny B Barker. Well, I used the last name Barker because, well, that's what her last name was when I became acquainted with her while doing some research for another video. As you'll learn, Fanny had more than one last name during her lifetime. In fact, she had more than 2 or 3, but we'll get to that in just a minute. Fanny introduced herself to the Phenix City scene somewhere in late 1950. At the time, she was married to a guy named Patrick Chance. He was her 4th husband. They had been divorced and remarried, so I guess actually he was husband number 5. According to one book I read, early in 1953, Fanny and her Lincoln Continental made her way to the state line and pulled up to the 45 grill. Louise Hathcock was excited as she watched Fanny get out of her car. To her, Fanny was somebody special, even though she had grown up in Corinth and had, well, grown up playing with the Hathcock children. Louise invited her in, and, well, I feel sure they visited for a minute until Fanny explained she was at the state line to take care of a little personal business. Fanny's niece, Shirley, and her boyfriend, Junior, had been working for her in Phenix City, and it seems things had gotten a little complicated and, well, she needed to get them out of town. Jack Hathcock quickly agreed to find them something to do. That's when Fanny told him about another man who might need a job, and his name was Carl White. He was a Mississippi boy, and he was a good-looking young man, but sometimes he had a temper. But he was also good at making problems go away. Jack, of course, agreed to take him on as well. I imagine that Fanny and Jack and Louise sat there and discussed business and good times around Corinth for a while longer, and Fanny simply got up and left. The 2 men showed up a couple weeks later, and Jack had Junior work security for booze runs, and Towhead White became a bouncer. Fanny divorced Patrick Chance in September of '53. But the 2 remained great friends, and they often declared their undying love for each other. Fanny married an Army sergeant in October of '53, but this did not end her relationship with Chance. Chance played cards to make a living, and, well, when he was not doing so well, Fanny would give him money. See, Fanny had the money. She had been a B-girl on 14th Street in Phenix City. B-girls were not prostitutes. They were women who did what they had to do to talk the soldiers out of their money. See, Phenix City is in Alabama, right across the river from Columbus, Georgia, and Fort Benning. After being married to this newest husband a few weeks, she talked him into trying to get assigned to Germany. When he got there, he could make arrangements for her to join him, and of course, off he went, and Fanny stayed behind. Fanny, of course, received his allotment check of $140 a month because she was a dependent of a GI. In fact, there were times when Fanny received allotment checks from 6 different soldiers at the same time. That sergeant hadn't been overseas very long when Fanny picked her up another man. He bought a house in Columbus and deeded it to her. While Fanny was romancing this new guy, she met a man named Willis Buddy Jowers. He was an assistant chief in the city police department. The 2 decided they could best take advantage of what each had to offer by buying a Phenix City nightclub. They shopped around a little and settled on the Cotton Club. This establishment catered to African American soldiers and really promoted gambling and slot machines. Through his connections in the police department, Buddy could guarantee there would be no raids or no police interference. The Cotton Club would not have to pay any protection money. And of course, customers would eventually figure out that they could gamble at the Cotton Club and the cops wouldn't bother them. Fanny had finally hit the big time. She found her home that had air conditioning scattered throughout it, and she bought it. She bought a '54 Oldsmobile and some diamonds and nice clothes. Well, things rocked along really well for Fanny until June 18, 1954. That's when a guy named James Patterson, who was running as Alabama Attorney General, promising to clean up places like Sin City, or Phenix City, Alabama, Well, Mr. Patterson was shot and killed outside of his law office, right there in Phenix City. The Alabama National Guard was called in, and the commanding general, Walter Hanna, led, the cleanup efforts in Phenix City. Eventually, Fanny B. Green, who was known as the Queen of Hearts and admitted to the National Guard that she was 33 years old, even though she was probably a little older, eventually Fanny was picked up for questioning. It was during this questioning that it was learned that she had several soldiers sending her their allotment checks from all over the world. Fanny moved back to Corinth sometime after 1955, when the gambling and corruption had been cleaned up in Phenix City. I, of course, don't know for certain, but I can find no indication that she was involved in Corinth and the types of activities that she was involved with in Phenix City that got her the moniker Phenix City Queen of Hearts. And here she lies in Henry Cemetery in Corinth, Mississippi, beside her last husband, Buck Sorrell. Well, I hope you've enjoyed hearing what I think is a pretty incredible story about the life of another Mississippian, Miss Fanny B. Sorrell. Thank you.